Hello, Lindsay here. I'm just doing a quick level check and make sure everything looks good. So if you are in the if you're in the chat already, could you please let me know if you can hear my voice and see my table? That would be great. I'm going to adjust my camera. It's so different now. Trying to live stream on YouTube that you don't get. It seems like you don't have the preview section like you used to anymore. So. It's always a little bit disconcerting, and it also shows me everything in reverse. So I'm like trying to turn something one way and it wants me to go the other way. So it's extremely disconcerting. Okay, hello, happy Halloween, everyone. It's been so windy. I tried to get video this morning of uh the leaves blowing, but I couldn't get very good footage of. So I was thinking, oh, that'd be so cool to be able to put into videos, but it's like as soon as I turned the camera on, the wind would just die down, and as soon as I turned it off, it would like go crazy. Oh, right. I'm just wondering what microphone. It should be this microphone. I'm going to move it closer to me. Does this sound too loud? I think it's the mic. I think this is the microphone that's picking me up. I'm just going to set it back there. As long as you can all hear me well, then I will leave the microphone. Okay, how does this sound good at this level, guys? If you could let me know. Hopefully it's nice and loud. I'm looking at the level meter on my computer and it doesn't look like it's very high, but you guys say it sounds good. All right. Well, guys, it's so nice to see everyone in the chat. We are live. It's 1 p.m., so we're going to get going on this Inktober party. Let me know in the chat if you did Inktober this year or if you did some other drawing challenge like Drawtober, or there were a bunch of them. I can't remember all of them, but it's fun. It seems like I think October is the biggest drawing challenge month. I like to do World Watercolor Month in July. That definitely does not get the amount of participation as Inktober does. I think I'm going to do February that's put on by Croquis Club in February. I wanted to last year, but for whatever reason, I didn't. But yeah, I'm happy I finished, and hopefully if you started off this challenge, you made it all the way through, or at least did more art than you would have normally, because that's really the point. I don't think it's as important that you do every single day, is that the fact that you do more than usual, and it just kind of gets you inspired. And man, I've seen some beautiful artwork on Instagram and I have just absolutely loved it. I've seen some of your work when you guys have tagged me, or I've come across it just scrolling through the daily prompts, and it's so nice. It's so nice to see what you guys have been doing. All right. Wow. A lot of you guys took part. Okay, I'm going to ignore the chat for a few minutes. We're going to go through. I'm going to go mostly in order, but because I work across a bunch of different sketchbooks and I've got loose sheets of paper, I got all kinds of stuff here. It won't be absolutely perfectly in order, but I'm going to try to go in order as best as I can. And I started off in this book here, and this is the Kira Kira sketch marker pad from Artix. And they recently released a mixed media pad, which is thicker paper, which I'll show you some artwork in there, and the marker paper. Now, this is thin, and you do have to be careful about your marker ink bleeding through, so you would want to slide a piece of paper in between your pages. Also, because it's really thin, if you like to do mixed media art like me, you're like, when you do pencil and stuff, you can actually dent the page underneath, so it's a good idea. You know how sometimes your marker sets will now come with like a sheet of plastic? That's great to slide in between those pages so you don't dent the page underneath. Or you could save some plastic packaging to do that, or even like some cereal box cardboard, because that's a really nice surface too to draw against. So oh, you know what? I actually started in their mixed media pad. Let's get this one off first. I'll at least start on the right day, then we'll get all off track. So this is the Waku Waku mixed media pad. It's thicker. It's like a cardstock weight paper. And the first day prompt was crystal, and I decided to do kind of like an iridescent, kind of like rainbowy crystal. And something that I did a lot during this month's challenge was to put like a box, either a box or a circle behind my subject to kind of finish it and give it a little bit of I don't know, a little bit of contrast where I had so much pastel here. And I did put a list, if you look in the video description, and I tried to get everything. I think I did I'm sure if I forgot stuff, I'll add it after the live stream. But I tried to list every product I used just in case we talked about something and somebody was curious about it. They can go find more information. If I forgot something, I will add it afterwards. Like I can see, I already forgot. I used Art Wheel paints on one of these, and I forgot to link that. But anyways, this was the Arctic pastel markers and fine liners and a black marker. And I found that for quick sketching, I loved having this set of, I think it was like 40 pastel markers, a handful of fine liners, a black marker, and a tin of Derwent ChromaFlow pencils. And I use that for a lot of them. And I forgot to add the ChromaFlow pencils to my list. Man, I thought I was so so complete, but I will get to all of that. I will get to all of that. All right, so this was day 1 crystal. This was day 2 suit, and I thought like a suit of cards, like a suit of like a suit, like spades or clubs or diamonds. And here I did a circle. Now I used Tombow markers on this, the water-based ones, and this paper, your ink stays so wet on this paper. So if you did want to use water-based markers and have a little more blending, this is a paper for you. If you like to work quickly, this is not the paper for you. I had to go through with some Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white and clean up the background because I like set my hand down and it was like 30 seconds later and I smeared it. So just a little tip for you there. Now, day 3, I didn't use the prompt because I had an agreement with Hanemule to do a collaboration with them. And I did this parrot here with on their Cezanne. No, actually, this was on their bamboo mixed media paper. And I used Art Wheel watercolors. I used Arctic's Elp, the brush tip Oros markers rather, and some Prismacolor pencil. And this was a lot of fun to do. And yeah, I have a video for that. And actually a real-time version of this is in Critique Club, and a time-lapse version of this is on YouTube. So if you're looking for that, you can find that there. So that was on the 3rd day. And I don't remember what day this was, but the prompt was watch. And I had a pocket watch that was, it was like missing its face. I actually have a box of pocket watches. They came from my brother-in-law. They were, I guess, my husband's family. So I just grabbed one of those pocket watches and I did it with the, I think I used the Arteza markers on this, the newer Arteza Everblend brush markers. And when I first reviewed those brush markers, I was kind of, because the ink didn't flow very fast and they just kind of felt a little bit dry. And I thought they seemed like a fiber tip marker, but they said they were the Japanese style. And I got some other ones to try and they did feel like the Japanese style. So I'm wondering if there might have been if I might have got a prototype the first time, because the portrait tones and deco tones definitely felt more flexible like a Japanese brush marker. If you're curious, they are a little bit more expensive on the range of alcohol markers that are not Copics, but they seem pretty good. I mean, they're probably not the ones I reach for first, but they're decent. This was for the prompt pressure. I really don't like how this one came out. The prompts this year, did you guys find the prompts this year to be hard? If you guys did Inktober, I thought the prompts were really difficult this year. So pressure, I was like, what am I going to do for pressure? What an unpleasant word. I try to make my, I like to make lovely art. I like to make art that is like inspiring and not dark. I like to make happy art, I should say. Fun art, not fine art. And I'm like, pressure, what am I going to do? And then so I was thinking of like hot springs and geysers and science and things like that. So I ended up doing a geyser or a hot spring because it's like, heated up by pressure deep into the earth. Anyway, that's what I did. I didn't really love it, but I got the challenge done. And that's kind of the point of it. You're not going to love everything you do and you're not going to love every prompt you get, but part of the creativity is just pushing through and getting it done. I do like how this one came out. The prompt was pick, and I thought, a guitar pick. And I thought it'd be fun to do one of my kids playing guitar. So Maisie plays guitar, and I had her hold the pick, and I was probably moving her hand in probably the most awkward positions, trying to get a good photograph. But I did this from a photograph of Maisie with her guitar. Actually, my guitar, technically, it was my guitar from when I was her age, which is kind of fun. And I did this with those Arctic's pastel markers. And I used the Derwent ChromaFlow pencils, which I will link down below. but I forgot to. But I mean, obviously you can use whatever you want. The Chroma Flows are very similar to the Derwent Color Soft or Prismacolor Premier. They're a very soft pencil, and that's why I chose them. Plus, there's only 24 colors in the line. So if I have that tin of 24 colors in my bag with a set of pastel markers and fine liners, it's not so much that it's overwhelming. And it's really easy just to get going and start creating, which is what I liked. And yeah, I actually had some darker marker in there that I used. That might have been the Arctic's Portrait Tones. I might have grabbed that. I was actually drawing this while I was sitting on the couch watching the movie Shirley on Hulu. It's I don't know if it's a true story or what, but it's about Shirley Jackson, the woman that wrote The Haunting of Hill House, I believe. She's a horror writer anyway, and it was kind of like a psychological thriller autobiography type or biography type thing. I don't know. Might not be true at all, but it was entertaining. And this one, I love how this one came out. This one was for the prompt open, and I thought a yawning cat would be so cute. And I thought I was so clever. Let me tell you, did I think I was clever when I came up with this? And then I go and looked at all the prompts, and somebody else also did a yawning cat, so I was very, I was very upset about that. But theirs was good too. I did kind of like a Maine Coon cat, but I really like how this came out. I thought it was really fun, and it was challenging to draw, and but I really enjoyed it. Now this, most of these actually I think almost all of these, I started off with a Prismacolor Col Erase pencil, and I'll show you what those look like if you've never seen them. They're a pencil with an eraser on it, but they're a colored lead, and they don't put down a ton of pigment, and it's easy to erase. So after you sketch, I try to sketch in a color that's going to be similar. I've been using a light gray for a lot of these. And a lot of times you don't even need to erase any of your sketchy lines because your alcohol markers will dissolve them a little bit and smear it, but not enough that it's going to damage your marker. And watercolor will not resist on it. Watercolor will go right over it without beating stuff up. And it doesn't dissolve, but it just kind of makes itself part of the picture, so it doesn't seem like really harsh or anything. So I highly recommend these. I like to get, like, I got the box of 24 many years ago, and I just grabbed the color that's closest. But some artists prefer to just use one color. Maybe it's indigo or red or blue or like a non-photo blue. It's completely up to you, but I like having the variety so that I can just grab whatever's closest and work with that. So not very expensive either. I think a box of 24 is like $12, and you can get them open stock if you know you only want one color, which I really like. Now this one was for the prompt crispy, and I thought crispy, and I didn't want to take any I tried not to go for the easiest solution. I tried not to take the most obvious solution. So I was thinking, okay, it's fall, but I don't want to do like crisp leaves. I don't want to do crisp air. I'm like, what do I want? I'm like apple crisp. I love apple crisp. And the way I make my apple crisp is extra crispy. There's a lot of the crisp to apple ratio on my apple crisp. It's very crisp heavy. It's delicious. So I thought I would draw some apple crisp. And I also my friend Tracy Allen, real life friend, is in the chat. Hey, Tracy. I worked a lot for imagination on these prompts, not all of them, but I definitely relied on my imagination a lot more just because I couldn't find references for what I wanted. And I think that also helped just kind of help build my ability a bit. And so this one was just the other day. So we're out of order in case you were following the prompt list. And this one was for the prompt patch. And I went through the memory box and found my son's Class A Boy Scout uniform when he went to Jamboree in 2017. He went to the National Jamboree, which is kind of a big deal if you're in scouting. It's that big. They go down to West Virginia. I can't remember which, but it's a huge, they basically have a city. It's like of scouts. It's crazy. So he got to do that. And that was one of his Class A uniforms for that endeavor. So that's all I have in this sketchbook. I'm just going to quickly look through the chat and see if anybody has any questions about anything I've used or any of the inspiration. And also, I'm just nosy, and I want to see what you guys are all talking about. Oh goodness! I hope you're all ready for Halloween. I've hidden the candy. I had to hide the candy so that it would make it to Halloween. Do you guys have to do that? Usually my hiding spot is the freezer, because I figure even if somebody does find it in the freezer, who wants to eat like rock hard chocolate? Nobody's going to steal it from the freezer. That's my theory anyway. Of course, now everyone knows I hide candy in the freezer, so they'll all be able to find it. Who am I kidding? My family doesn't watch my videos. All right, cool. I'm gonna go to the next sketchbook. We got a question here. Oh, if you do have a question, if you type the word question in all caps, then I will see it. Or even better, if you do you hit the ampersand, like the at symbol, and then start to type my username, like the Frugal Crafter. Then it will show like a nice orange bar, and I'll be able to see that. How do you do challenges and get hints? This challenge, Inktober, if you go to inktober.com, I think it is, or even look on social media, just search Inktober, you'll see the prompt list. It'll be 31 prompts, and there's a day. It corresponds with the day. So like day 1 was crystal, day 2 was suit, day 3, I can't remember what day 3 was because I didn't do that. I did something different on that day. But yeah, so, and there's always, you just search art challenges and you will find them. Let's see. Thank you guys. Thank everyone for your lovely words. The Thrifty Apprentice says, I've been following your channel and teachings for 2 years now. As someone who has completely studied art from home, you have been heaven sent. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to help. Okay, wonderful. Oh, hey, Ian Jackson. He's always super handy and helpful in the comments. He's one of the moderators. So if you have a question and I don't get to it, any of those moderators or any other actually folks in the chat, if you have an answer for somebody, please feel free to hop in and answer them. Oh, Ian says it's really windy where he is and most things are canceled. Oh, what a shame. That's too bad. All right, this was the day 4. This was, the prompt was knot, and I had done a knot in watercolor. Some rope in watercolor for World Watercolor Month, and I think that the challenge might have been, or the prompt might have been gnarled. So when knot came up, I'm like, oh, I had so much fun doing the watercolor of the rope. I'm like, why don't I do one with markers? And again, the pastel markers worked really well for this. And then I tend to fine line last, and fine lining would be the dark, like the black lines. So I usually I sketch with the color erase pencil, and then I'll start layering in all my marker colors. And then I'm actually still kind of tweaking my drawing when I'm putting the marker in. And then once I feel like I'm reasonably happy with where everything is, then I commit to my lines with a fine liner at the end. I know that's a little backwards from how some people do it, but it works really well for me. And it allows me to keep refining the drawing and keep the drawing kind of active while I'm working on it. So I know some artists will actually do their drawing on their tablet using like an app like Procreate, and they'll make it perfect, and then they'll print it off, and then they'll do all their coloring, and that's fine. But I like the whole, like keeping my whole the creativity and brain engaged into the drawing aspect the entire time of the painting. It might be making more work, but I find it more engaging and interesting that way for me. And again, this is the marker paper. So we just looked at stuff on the mixed media paper. This is the thin marker paper. So there was a couple times where I didn't put paper in between, so I had to skip a sheet. So this was sour, and this was day 11. And I decided to do some Jolly Rancher candies because I actually had some at home. So I unwrapped a couple, and I thought the wrappers looked interesting, so I crinkled those up. I did not fine line this because I thought that it would just be too I don't know. I thought it would take some of the realism away if I added fine lining. So what I did instead was I used like sharp gray pencils. So I took like my cool gray 70% Prismacolor, sharpened it as fine as I could. And then I just kind of outlined certain areas that I felt needed more definition. And if I'm doing something like this, I often find a white pen will help me. Instead of fine lining with like black, I'll use the white pen for getting those really crisp contrasted highlights, especially something like this. It's so light and bright, like the crinkly wrappers and the somebody just mentioned, Nancy said, I love to hear you say drawing with your accent. Oh, I've worked my entire life to get rid of my accent. And there's certain words, man, that just always, they just slip out before I can realize it. But yeah, anyway, the markers worked really well because this was a transparent subject, the little candies. And I really had a fun time sketching this. And I love when light goes through transparent things and you get like color in your shadows. So I try to pick out those little aspects and add them whenever I can, because things like that, I think really those little things you can notice as an artist can help a non-artist who sees your artwork look at regular, ordinary things in a new way. And I believe that's something we can give the world. Just give people a little bit more. They can look at things with more depth and see more beauty in things. All right. So I had to skip a page here because I got some major indenting here from where I use my colored pencils on top. So I'll probably tear that out and then use that as a buffer sheet. There's a video for this one. This was the prompt was compass. And so I didn't want to do a directional compass because I just did that pocket watch and I thought it was too samey. And this is actually something I use a lot, a drafting compass. So I actually just took my drafting compass and I laid it down on this sheet of paper here so I could look at it while I was drawing. And I used the Arctic pastel markers again, which is, I mean, that bag of supplies, I did a video on it. It is such a nice selection of things if you want to draw fast. And I knew if I was going to stick out Inktober this year, I had to make it easy. It was like the day before Inktober was about to start, and I was thinking, why did I commit to this? I was just like already overwhelmed and stressed out, and I'm like, how am I going to make it through this month doing Inktober, because I am already just overwhelmed. And having that bag of simple supplies, I'm like, I can do it, even if it's just 15 minutes. Those supplies will work really well together and be really fast. And so that's what I did. I used the black marker to do the black circle. I kind of put these bubbles in here. And I really actually was I didn't like it once I started adding the black into it, but then I liked it all right after I'd added enough colors and kind of pushed it around. Marker paper generally doesn't blend. It's more for like layering. So it's something to keep in mind. And also it's very slick. It almost feels like wax paper. Or like a tracing paper. It's very slick, so it's hard to get colored pencil to stick to it. So you will be able to adjust a little bit with colored pencil, but not much. Not like you're on watercolor paper or something that's toothy that will grab a lot of pastel, colored pencil rather. This won't, so you're really limited to what you can layer on when you're working on that. And then I had to skip a page again. And actually this next one I'm going to show you is the final drawing from the challenge. It's today's, and the prompt was risk. And so I was like, I'm a very risk averse person. But I was thinking, what do I want to do? I originally had thought, I can show you this. You might want to, if you have headphones on, you might want to take them off because I have to reach behind the microphone and I might hit it by mistake. So I was thinking I need to swatch out my hoo-hoo markers, and I thought I would do a big map, like the risk map, where it's kind of, because if you look at the game Risk, all of the continents are smooshed together, and I thought, that'll work. I could do that on this piece of Bristol. And so I'm swatching out my colors. I'm like, I got to fit 320 colors on here. So I'm like doing these tiny little tick marks to swatch out my markers. And then I realized, like over here, I'm like, I got space to fill. We got to make some big blocks over here. And it reminded me of being a kid in school and having to make a poster for something. And then it'd be like happy birthday, and you got happy birth. And then it's like, I got to fit day in there. I only got this much space. That's what it felt like, except the opposite. So I was really bummed. I'm like, this isn't going to work for Risk, because I thought I could do more to it or something. But I was like, I'm over this. So then I'm like, I'm going to do dice because I love to draw transparent things. And I went into and I'm not a gambler in any stretch of the imagination. There's some trash in there. So I went into the game cupboard and I found some dice, and I'm like, I'll stack a couple of those up and do it. And that way I could actually have today's prompt up before 9 o'clock at night. So I like how it came out. I wasn't so sure at first, but after, you leave it be and you come back and look at it and things look better. You know how that works. It's like the drawing fairies come in and they fix your drawing when you leave the room. I love it. I love how that happens. So that was actually today's challenge. And I mean, not the most exciting way to finish off the challenge, but I'm not mad at it. I'm fine with it. Fine by me. All right, so we can look at some of the loose artwork and then we'll go to some other sketchbooks. This one, and there's a tutorial for this, the prompt was spirit. And I thought, I didn't want to do a ghost because I figured, Halloween ghost, everyone's probably going to go for spirits like, poltergeists and things like that. And so I thought, what about booze, spirits, that kind of spirit. And so I had an idea of actually doing a card using a martini stamp that I had, and then using an eyeball that I had, and making like a little spooky martini greeting card. But I did not have my act together for card making this month, so that never happened. But then I thought, I could sketch out a martini glass. I could put some booze here, and then I could make it kind of like all spooky. And I actually did this for a tutorial. It's on my channel if you want to check it out. It is real time, so you can definitely paint along with that. And I'm happy with the way that came out. It was really fun. I used the Pretty Excellent watercolors, which are probably my favorite recommendation for student grade watercolors. They're under 20 bucks. You get 36 half pans, and the colors are just super transparent and gorgeous. Kimberly Crick actually did a light fast test on those, and they mostly did really well. There might have been a couple colors that faded, but they held up really nicely. So I still highly recommend that paint set. I did link it up if you were curious. And this is on Hahnemühle Cezanne watercolor paper. And then another one I did on the Cezanne watercolor paper, which there's also a tutorial for the background, is, oh, we can put those both at the same time, is this one here. This started off with a wet and wet watercolor. So this was like wet the back of the paper, wet the front of the paper, and then start painting. And then after that was dry, I actually went in with marker. I went in with the chisel tip of a variety of grays from the Ohuhu set, because there was red grays and green grays and yellow grays. I mean, it's crazy the amount of grays in there. And so I just did my my little cityscape by just doing swashes of those markers. And then I used my fine liner to draw around these buildings. And I think I used, and I forgot to link it up, a pen, like a Derwent and a Pentel ink filled brush, like water brush pens, but they have ink in them. And I used those for filling in some areas. And then I used a Derwent pastel pencil, which I also forgot to link. Thought I was being so good, to add some little light on in some of the little houses there. And I sketched on the birds with a pastel pencil, and then went over it with the ink-filled brush pen, just to kind of smooth everything out and make them have a little bit more solidness to them, because pastel pencil can look a little grainy, and that just kind of helped spread everything and make it nice and smooth. And I wanted to have a nice like swoop of birds kind of coming through the scene. So, oh, and I did some pastel in the sky, and that was a lot of fun. I like to do mixed media. I know it's Inktober. I start off with ink, or I use some ink somewhere, but I generally will just do my thing and use mixed media and stuff, because that's what I like to do. And I think with a challenge like this, I think it's pretty open to how you want to interpret it. These days. There were a bunch of rules, I think, to begin, but so, you put a bunch of artists in a room and you say, follow these rules, everyone's going to, you put a bunch of artists in a box, they're all going to climb out of the box. They're going to do their own thing. They're like herding cats. So, there's no more rules anymore. The people are just like, yeah, whatever, do whatever you want to do. This one here was for the prompt stuck. Oh, I actually wrote it on that one. That was day 12. And again, I was trying to figure out something I could do that wouldn't be really obvious. And so then I thought, what about I was thinking of, what about being stuck in a web, being stuck in a spider web? And then I just thought, what about then I was thinking of like carnivorous plants, like the pitcher plants. And I was going to go with the pitcher plant, but then I couldn't, I don't know. I was having a hard time making it visually appealing. And then I thought, oh, a Venus flytrap just kind of ready to snap on its prey. I thought that would be a really good one for stuck. So I usually will start off with like the prompt, and then I'll think, well, what are other words that mean the same thing? So I'll go to like synonyms for that word. So I get a few degrees of separation from the original prompt word. And then that helps you find the less obvious choices as a solution for some of these prompts. And then again, I did use the black box around it because I wanted to have a little more contrast. And I also like letting things protrude beyond the borders of the box. I'm not crazy about how the edge of this box lined up with that stem. I don't think that's a good design choice, but for whatever reason, that's how it worked out. This is Arteza marker paper, which it's okay. It's a little bit thicker than some other marker papers, which is nice, but it doesn't blend. Most marker papers don't, but I did find like my ink almost was a little bit less workable on here. It just dried a little bit quicker. That's very small. It's a very small difference, but there's so many marker papers out right now that I think this one's a little bit more difficult to use. I don't think it's a bad paper. I just think the working on it is a little bit more challenging, especially if you are a beginner and you started off with this pad, because it is a good price. But I think that it might hinder you a little bit if you're just getting started, especially if you want to blend. It's definitely not a blending paper. The next one we're going to look at is another one that I have a tutorial for that I live streamed on the channel. And so Sketch shouldn't, oh my gosh, I need my eyes checked. Shinaver says rules are meant to be bent. Yes, they are, for sure, for sure. So I have a tutorial for this. If you want to check it out, it was a live stream that we did a couple weeks ago. And this was for the prompt sprout. And when I thought of sprout, obviously I was thinking of plants. But one of my favorite things to see sprout would be crocuses because they come up through the snow. And so that's kind of like the first sign of spring is when I'll be walking the dog and it'll still be snowy out and you'll see that little purple bud kind of shooting up. You'll see the leaves, the little purple flowers shooting right through the snow. And so that's why I did that for the prompt sprout. And this is done in marker. Excuse me, I get a cough, so you might want to take your headphones out. Sorry about that. I used alcohol marker for the underlaying. And for this on the tone paper, I would recommend you start with not a pastel marker, start with something a little bit bolder. And then after I did the first layer of markers, then I went over it with the Neocolor 2 water soluble crayons by Karen Dosh. And then I went over that with real brush markers, and I forgot to link those too. But you know, the markers that have the real bristles with water-based ink, I use those on top for definition and to also add some line work. That's such a great combination. I highly recommend you trying that if you like mixed media. This paper, the Tone Tan mixed media paper, which I'm going to bring a piece of white paper in here for a second because this is not looking right on the camera there. See how it's warm. It's a nice warm tan color. I had to put that white back there so it would read correctly. It's a beautiful paper to work on. Strathmore makes this paper in tan, gray, green, blue, and white. And I'm telling you, if you can only choose one, the tan is the way to go. It is so flattering for portraits. It's so flattering on so many different subjects. And it's smooth. It takes marker. It takes colored pencil. It's almost like a Bristol finish. And it's just wonderful. I can't recommend this enough. And it's held up really well. I have some pads that are a few years old and they're still taking media really well. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful paper. And I use the same technique for this next one here. This was for the prompt loop. And I did, I'm going to bring that white paper back again to help it read properly. This was for the prompt loop, and I started again with markers, and then I layered on the watercolor crayons and then did the real brush markers on top. I could have gone in bolder with my marker layer on this, but I didn't know because I was just trying this technique for the first time. And I actually have a time lapse of this on YouTube, and there is a real-time version of this painting in Critique Club. And if you like the type of work that you've been seeing in these sketchbooks, that I do a lot of those on Critique Club. It's I would say it's probably more influenced by watercolor, just like most of my work is influenced by watercolor, but Critique Club has a lot of mixed media in there. So if you have a lot of supplies and you like trying different things, it's a really wonderful way to kind of get your hands on all those different pots and see how the things work together and have a bunch of lessons to go by. There's like 68 full-time lessons. There's a lot of prompts. There's a lot in there. And there's 2 new lessons and 1 new prompt added every month. If you're curious about it, it's $5 a month. You can check it out. It's linked down below if you want some more information. But I love getting these little subtle undertones here. And I did those with the real brush markers over the Karen Dosh Neocolor 2s. And it just was really fun. I love the life that's in the skin when you do that. All right, and the next one here is also on that paper, and this one was done with that same technique where I did the marker. I didn't use watercolor crayons though. I did marker, and then I did some colored pencil, and I actually did a little bit of gouache for the grass because I wanted to have it kind of come up over the sky and over the border a little bit. And these were done, I used a mixture of I used some of the Azure markers from Royal Langnickel, and I used some Arteza markers. And guys, honestly, I know I'm throwing a bunch of marker names out there, but it really doesn't matter. The ink is about the same no matter what brand you choose. So if you have Copics, you're fine. If you've got Arctics, you're fine. If you got Ohuhu, you're fine. If you've got Blick Studio, you're fine. The ink is interchangeable. It doesn't really matter. The best supplies that you can use are the ones you already have. Use them up and then, either refill them or try another brand after that. I get so many different brands to review. So I know they're subtly different. Your hands might be smaller, so you might prefer, one brand over another or vice versa. So, I just don't want anyone to look at that supply list and be like, oh my gosh, I have to have all these things. No, you don't. I'm just listing what I used in case anybody was particularly interested in any of those products. This next one was one that was the other Critique Club project for this month. This, whoops, I have it upside down. This was for the prompt Raven. And this was also when I was building my super granulating watercolor palette. Oh, the screen was doing something weird. Guys, do you see that on your end? Is the bottom of the screen acting all weird for you guys, or is that just me? Okay, you guys all have that weird screen thing happening? Oh, I don't know what to do. What do I do? I have no idea. I'm gonna wiggle a cord. Oh, wiggling a cord worked. Hey, how about that? Technology. Look at that. Okay. So this was for the prompt Raven, and it's Halloween. That's right. It's a Halloween spooky thing. Now stop that. I just fixed you by wiggling a cord. Stop doing that thing. Oh man. Okay. Nobody move. Let me get this thing going. All right. Don't everybody be very quiet. We're hunting rabbits. Oh, it's my laughter. My laughter is making it go crazy. Watched the movie Poltergeist last night. And I don't know if I've ever seen it before, but I woke up in the middle of the night and I was freaked out. Uh, I think it's something in the cord because I touched the cord and it fixes. Okay. Woo. All right, we just got to keep this together for a few more illustrations. Come on. Okay, I'm just going to move this up because it doesn't seem like it's giving us a problem there. So I used my super granulating colors, and this was, I have a video on this on how I went through regular watercolors and I chose colors that would give me that granulation effect. I also used some liquid charcoal paint from Renaissance, and a lot of these granulating colors are also from Renaissance. A friend of mine, April, runs a shop on Etsy called The Little Creative Me. She's actually from Maine. She's moved away. People moving away from Maine. I know, winters are harsh. But anyway, she has these paints are from Poland, and they're very affordable. And the liquid charcoal comes in a huge honking tube, and it is wonderful to mix in with things to give you beautiful textures. And I linked that down below, and she did share a coupon code. I did type it out. I believe it's frugalcrafter 10, but it's 10% off anything in her shop. If you do plan on shopping, use the coupon code so you can save some money. But I do have the video where in a blog post where I go over my granulating palette as well as what I used in it. So if you want a list of all, check out my blog post. I don't know if I have it in the video description because that was a lot to type out. But it's definitely on my blog post, and the blog has swatches of each of the colors. So if you're considering about adding like a particular color to your palette, you can see what the color looks like swatched out and how much texture it has. That way you can make a good decision comparing my swatches to what you already have. Maybe you already have plenty of granulating blues, but you need a granulating purple. You can see 3 different granulating purples, see if one of those will be a good addition to what you have, because we all have different stuff. And, there's no point in you getting a blue that's like the same, this different like color, but it looks so close to what you already have. I mean, there's no point in that unless it like does spectacular, has some granulation. But anyway, this was the watercolors in the background. Then I used some Dr. P.H. Martin acrylic inks. I used dip pen, like the pen you dip in the ink, for our bats here, and I used some white ink for the stars, or actually that was silver. The ink and the stars are silver. Oh my word, why? I want treats, no tricks on Halloween. Stop, I'm so sorry, guys. It has never done this. For all the technical problems I've had over the years, and there's been quite a few, this is new. This is the new tech issue. Okay. I'll have to have my tech support team, aka Mr. Frugal, take a look at my camera. Huh. So sorry about that, guys. Oh man. All right, I'm just gonna stop touching things. Maybe it will fix itself. Okay. Oh, and if you could hit the thumbs up button, that would be wonderful. Leaving a comment, that's so wonderful because it helps people find my channel, and it tells YouTube that I'm still relevant. I need all the help I can get. This was for the prompt Fuzzy, and I was actually running a little low on time, so I'm like, I'm going to use watercolor because I'm a little faster in watercolor than marker. And I used my Rosa Gallery watercolors on this Arteza watercolor sketchbook. And then I did some color pencil over top using the edge of the color pencil to give that fuzzy texture. And then I added some little drops so I'd have something really glossy looking to go next to the peach fuzz, just so it would give me that contrast and make that look extra fuzzy. And then I just did some stippling with a white gel pen. And then finally, I did the fine lining around the edge of the peach and the leaf, just to kind of give that a little bit more crispness. So again, hopefully make the peach texture look a little bit more soft and furry. Oh, you guys are so you're so forgiving. So there are a lot of channels out there where if if anything went wrong, they would just bail. I'm so glad you guys are hanging out there. Oh, you guys are the best. And this is pretty smooth too, by the way. It is more like a hot press watercolor paper than a cold press. And actually, this paper reminds me a lot of the Stillman and Byrne mixed media paper, more than like a traditional watercolor paper. Now, the caveat being Stillman and Byrne is a much more predictable sketchbook. Every once in a while, you'll get an oddball page on some of these Arteza sketchbooks, the hardbound watercolor sketchbooks. But for its faults, I really like this. This is not a great paper for alcohol marker though. It's not compatible with alcohol marker. It just almost like your paper, you'll feel like you're drawing with a dry marker if you use alcohol marker on this. I don't know what it is, but it just does not, it's not compatible. And it's not even like it's absorbing a ton. It just feels like I don't know, it feels like nails on a chalkboard trying to use alcohol markers on this, but for watercolor, mixed media, inks, things like that, works really well. And it's very affordable. So I like it. Now this was another quick one. I was playing with those new pencils, the Phoenix color ones that come in the pretty book. And the prompt was connect. And I kept thinking of those puppet beads from when I was a little kid. You'd have those like bracelets and necklaces, and the beads would all pop together. They'd have like a little tab you'd pop into the hole, and they would make this very satisfying pop, like whenever you were like popping or unpopping them. That is until you bent the prong, and then you couldn't pop them in anymore. And they also reminded me of those toys the kids had when they were babies, those toddler beads, they were big though. They were like that big, and they would pop in and out. Like, I don't know if they're bath beads or what, but there was some toy that my kids had when they were little. And Gail says she'd never bail on me. No, thank you. And so that's what I was thinking for this. And I also realized as I'm looking through all my Inktober drawings that I really love circles. I do a lot of circles and things, but this was just also a good opportunity for me to see how those pencils would blend out into a sphere. And they worked really well, actually. I did get some smudges on this because this is just a little scrap of the Honey Mule sketch paper, which I could not find to link up. It's a great paper though, so it's kind of a shame. I hope they didn't discontinue it, but it's just got just the right amount of tooth for colored pencil. And I had this little scrap left because I had chopped a piece of paper up into 6 pieces because I had 5 little sets or 5 little books of color to swatch out. And this was left over. So I'm like, I'll just do my little Inktober sketch on that. And it was fun. It blended, it worked really well. And I want to use that paper a lot more for a colored pencil, I think. It's just nice, nothing fancy, but it works really well. Oh, this sketchbook is one of my favorite marker sketchbooks. I've used it a lot over in Inktober's past. That was last year. I did figures. I have a few in there. I did hands a couple of years ago, and I love that one. That one came up on my Facebook memories the other day, and I loved drawing that. So it was just a lot of fun to look through that and see all those older Inktober ones. But I like the sketchbook. It's a lot of fun. Now, the thing about the sketchbook, and I've mentioned that, like, don't be afraid if you wreck the first sheet of your sketchbook and then you're all bummed out, you can cut it out. And I cut the first page of the sketchbook out because I totally botched it because I wasn't used to this paper. This paper does not blend. This paper is difficult to use, but check this out. No bleeding on the next page, which is crazy. The only other paper I've ever found that doesn't bleed onto the next page is Gina K's, which is a stamp company. Gina K's, I think it's called like Pure Luxury Heavyweight Cardstock. That stuff it blends. You can blend on it, and it does not bleed to the back. The only thing with that paper, it does blend beautifully, is that your colors are a lot lighter on it. And on this, your colors look really dark when you put them down, but they shift a lot lighter as they dry. So you just want to be aware of that. Same thing with the toned papers. your paper looks a lot darker till it dries. So it can take a few minutes to get your bearings on that. So I want to warn you, otherwise you might be afraid when you start coloring and everything looks so dark. Once it dries, it lightens up. Same with this. So this was the prompt was tick on this one. And I really loved how this little sketch came out. Oh, I got a question here from Melissa Aldasari. Sorry to be off topic. My mom is in a memory care facility. I need to label her clothes with her name. I have some iron-on label tape. Do you know what pen would stand up to multiple washes? Gee, I don't know. I would say probably, oh, you know what? There's a pen. It's called Fabrique or Fabrico. There's also tea juice. I would use one of those just because sometimes Sharpies will, and Bic markers and other permanent markers will actually run in the wash. But I bet the label tape that you have probably does have something that fixes the ink in it. I bet when you iron it on, it's going to fix the ink in. But I would, to be extra safe, I would use like a tea juice or a Fabrico pen. And that doesn't have any weird smells. They're water-based, but they're waterproof when they dry. So I would go for that. And the tea juice are pretty juicy pens as well. So this was done with my Artify markers. All of the markers in here are the Artify markers because that's what I have upstairs on my fun art desk. It's just the drafting table I have in the corner of my bedroom. And I just started off with like pastel tones until I figured out where everything was going to go. And then I started just layering up. And then I went over the whole thing with like a really pale pinky beige color. And then I added some colored pencils, some Prismacolor colored pencils, because that's what I have upstairs as well. And I just love this line. That line just makes me so happy. And it was very fun to draw. I really enjoyed it. This was for the prompt helmet. And I didn't, my first thoughts for helmets were obviously like sports helmets, like football helmets, and that sort of thing. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's not very inspiring. I'm not a sports fan. So then I thought, what about like a scuba diver helmet? And so that's what I did. I love to draw metal, and it was just fun. It's fun, and I love to find colors and things that people don't necessarily recognize colors in. So I love metallic things because you can reflect all these colors and you can find all these undertones, and I like to really boost them and make them look a little bit more pronounced. And I really like how that came out. Now, the one problem with using colored pencil on here is that the reflections can be so bad on a slick paper like that it can almost look like I have a white highlight there, and it's the shine from the colored pencil. I think I have a couple of questions in here. Someone says, have you tried Render by Crescent Creative Products? It's a no show through paper. Yes, that's what this sketchbook is. This sketchbook is a Render sketchbook. And I was mentioning that this doesn't blend, but the Gina K is the only other paper that I've used that doesn't bleed through to the back, but does blend. So, yep, this is the Render. I like it a lot, but it's difficult. I think it's difficult to use. I don't think it's a good beginner paper, but I really like it because once you're used to it, it's not bad. You just got to be sure when you put something down that that's where you want it to be. Let's see. KJ asks, how do you build photo quality color using colored pencil? I use Prismacolors. Photo quality. Do you mean photorealism? Can you clarify your question, KJ? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. These have all been like mixed media. So I've started off with ink and used colored pencils on top. I generally will do something like watercolor or ink for the base and then do colored pencils over top just because it's a time saver and I find it more enjoyable. Susan asks, what GSM for the cardstock? Gina K's cardstock is either 110 or 120. It's the heaviest she sells. And it's the white. I'm just seeing if there's any other questions. A couple of recommendations for Render. That might have been the same person, but yeah, I like it. It's a little, well, actually, you know what? It's not that pricey. I think this book was more expensive when I bought it. I think I paid $16 for this a few years ago, but Blick had it for $14 today because I did link this up if anybody's interested. All right, the next one I did, this one was completely from imagination. The prompt was collide, And I didn't know what to. Again, I actually thought of football. I thought of like people tackling each other, and I was thinking, what would be visually appealing for the term collide? And I was thinking, maybe dominoes getting knocked down, but that's not so much a collide as kind of just stuff falling over. But then I thought, oh yeah, bowling balls, and bowling pins. That would be interesting to do. So again, circles. I love my circles. I used just a variety of primary colored markers, and I started off with the lighter tones like pinks and peaches and yellows and lime and like a really pale blue, and then I like layered over stripy squiggles of the darker tones to get this kind of marbled bowling ball look. And I used white pencil and white pen for the highlight, and I dabbed it so it have a little bit of a texture, like glossy texture to it, but like the almost pebbly glossy texture to it. And yeah, I actually sketched everything on with my color erase pencil. Then I went in with the markers, and I can't remember if I did the bowling ball first or if I did the background first, but I knew I was going to want a dark black background. So I used, I actually, when I did the floor, it's like kind of like beige and mahogany. And then I went over that with some warm grays. And then I did the black is actually, I think like a warm gray 90%. And then I just used like a warm gray 70% kind of overlaid, because you have to layer with this paper. It's not a blending paper. And yeah, I just left the pins white, just added some warm grays to them, and then finally went over with the white gel pen. And I really like how this came out. I didn't really like it at first, actually, but I did after I let it sit, and then the drawing fairies came and fixed it, and I looked at it and I thought it was fantastic. I'm just taking a quick. Oh, somebody recommended a laundry marker. Oh, cool. Okay, Rub-a-Dub laundry marker. Amanda says works great. Wonderful. Oh, KJ says, I was taught layers and teeny tiny circles, but that takes hours in a tiny area. Yes, it does. So KJ, let me introduce you to painting it in watercolor first, then go over and like finessing with a colored pencil. I mean, this is totally fine to do everything in colored pencil, but it is kind of a time suck. And I would prefer to do get my colors down with watercolor or ink, markers, whatever, and then go over with colored pencils. It saves you so much time. And for me, it's a much more fun process, but you should do whatever you feel like doing, whatever works well for you. I'm not a proper, air quotes, proper color pencil artist. I'm more of a, I mix it all together. I got a question from Patty Brewer. I saw Prisma watercolor pencils at Walmart a bit ago. Are those worth getting? I love my Derwent. Prisma, do you mean Prismacolor? Yeah, it must be Prismacolor watercolor pencils. I would not get the Prismacolor watercolor pencils. Granted, I only have a few. I bought a few open stocks. I was considering buying a set, and I thought they were pretty weak and almost kind of soapy. Like when you would color with them and you add water, they almost like bubbled up a little bit. They certainly didn't feel like a premium product, and they didn't feel like they were worth the price, because I'd used like budget brands that were better. I would not recommend their watercolor pencils. I love their color erase pencils and I love their Premier pencils, but I don't like their watercolors and I don't like their very thin pencils. So they're a company that does some things great and some things not great. Derwent is, I think, the company for water soluble pencils. They excel, and their prices are reasonable. Caran d'Ache makes wonderful water soluble pencils as well, but their prices are much higher. Derwent is tough to beat as far as value, I think. And another question from Ian Jackson. Lindsay, would you use a 90-pound hot press paper for any of these pen and ink type work? Yeah, I think that would work great. In fact, I think that the paper in the Arteza sketchbook is I would say it's a 90-pound hot press, or even a 90-pound mixed media type paper. Yeah, and it's funny. There's certain hot presses I like and certain ones I don't like. For instance, Arches is one of my favorite papers. I love their cold press and their rough, but their hot press is so smooth. It's almost like it almost feels like marker paper. It's so slick. I don't care for that as much as, say, the Paul Rubens hot press, which has a little texture, kind of like the Arteza sketchbook. There, I find that much more easy to use because I'm used to a cold press. So switching to that, I find much easier. I like the Artistico soft press if you want a little texture, but I don't find their sizing to be as robust as Arches or Hahnemuhle. So, oh man, there's so many. You can find seriously the specific attributes in any paper you could imagine nowadays. But yeah, oh, but Ian, I would suggest that I wouldn't use hot press watercolor paper. Like I wouldn't use cotton paper for any of the marker techniques though, because it's going to absorb so much and it's going to dry your markers up. But if you're doing watercolor as a base, absolutely. And it's going to be quite expensive for marker. I don't put a lot of money into my substrates for marker art because marker art is not light fast. It's going to fade. So that's why I use sketchbooks and stuff like that. I don't want to worry. I'm not going to spend, a lot of money on paper when the artwork is going to fade away if I display it, basically. And I think I saw a couple other questions. Susan asks, what do you think of Prisma Very Thins? I do not like those either. If you want a hardcore pencil that's pigmented, that doesn't snap or break, that will hold a nice point, you have a lot of options. A lot of budget pencils will do that quite well, like the Deli or the Arteza or the Mark Art. Nione pencils, those will all hold a really good point. Derwent's Pro Color is a super hard lead, super pigmented, keeps a razor sharp point. I would suggest any of those over the Very Thins personally. Let's see. Megan asks, Lindsay, when would you use a blue, green, or yellow, etc. paper? Anytime I don't feel like doing the background. I love toned paper when I want to keep the background easy. Like if this was on white paper, it would not look as good because you'd have all this this white space that would not be adding anything to this. Having this toned color is easier on your eyes. It makes it feel complete, even though there's nothing back there. There's a nice, they call it white space for your eyes to rest, but having a tone there gives it a warmth, and I feel like makes it feel finished. So that's what I would use a toned paper for, and generally over products that are not transparent. Oh my gosh. Oodvagu asks, what type of pencil would you recommend to go on top of watercolor? Oil-based, and what brand for low budget? Actually, I'd recommend a wax-based because wax-based are a little bit more opaque. So they'll show up on top of your colored medium. For a budget, I would recommend the Brute Funer Squares. They feel more waxy. They're a little bit more opaque and they're very soft. If you want to go for more of a mid-grade, I would say Prismacolor. And if you want to go for a top-of-the-line professional grade, I would say the Derwent Lightfast. Even though they call themselves an oil-based pencil, they are more opaque and creamy and act a lot more like a wax-based pencil. But honestly, try what you have first, because the differences are pretty small. So if you already have some pencils that you like, use those first and see what you think. And then maybe grab another set or a few open stock ones. Like a few open stock pastel toned Prismacolors will really, if you add that to a regular set of budget pencils, that's going to elevate that set and make it a lot more useful. So you don't necessarily need to buy a whole set of Prismacolor. Or Colorsoft, Derwent Colorsoft, or Derwent ChromaFlow even are nice and waxy and opaque. Another question from Dana Driscoll. Will this video be available to watch later? Love it. Thank you. Yes, it will, Dana. Technical difficulties and all. It will be available as soon as this live broadcast is done. My goodness, so many good questions. And I got one more question. What do you think of Faber-Castell's watercolor pencils and Staedtler watercolor pencils? Can you suggest a suitable paper for them? I've used the Albert Drawer pencils from Faber-Castell. I really like them. I've used Staedtler watercolor pencils, the Carrot Aquarelle, in the past, and I like them fine, but it's been so long I can't really give you a review of them because it was a long time ago, and I gave them away when I got my larger set of Derwents, and that was probably like the late 90s. But they were up to that point, they were fine. I have no idea how they are now. But I would say any sort of watercolor paper or mixed media paper will work great. I like to have a little more tooth. That's up to you how rough or textured you want it. But I would just go for any decent watercolor paper. Sketch says, Very Thin has only one use of my book, fine detail. Yeah, I mean, I've known artists that have created beautiful works with Very Thin pencils. They're not my cup of tea, I will tell you that. Let's see. And how can you tell if it's hot or cold press and the weight of a paper when there's not a label? Well, generally you can feel it, feel how thick it is and touch the surface and tell how textured it is. Hot press has no texture or very little texture, and cold press has a decent texture, and then rough is a really rough texture. And, and different brands will label their papers however they like to label them. They won't necessarily correlate with other brands. An Arches cold press would be a rough, in many other brands. So it just depends on the brand. I would go by touch and feel, basically. And okay, let's get to the next drawing, and then I'll take another sweep back for questions. This one, oh, another imagination one. I really liked doing this one. I actually used the backside here for testing some colors. This, what was the prompt was moon. And I kept thinking about like those vintage, like Halloween decorations, vintage moons, and the old silent movie. What was it called? Like Man in the Moon or Journey to the Moon or something. It's like they used it in the Smashing Pumpkins video. And it's just this like, and the moon had like a telescope, and it was just kind of like weird and creepy. And I love that. But then I thought, why does it have to be a man in the moon? Why can't it be a woman in the moon? So I decided I would do a lady of the moon. And then I started to put craters, and then I started thinking about, oh, the Swiss cheese. The moon is made of Swiss cheese, and I thought I would make it kind of look cheesy. And then I thought, oh, how cool would it be to have a hot air balloon moon? And so then I added a little basket and some broken lines. I had these as solid lines, but they looked too stark. So then I just kind of broke them up a bit. And I made a little trailing banner, and I love how this came out. I thought it was really fun. And 2 people told me that it should be a real hot air balloon, and it reminded them of the New Mexico Hot Air Balloon Festival, which I thought was so cool that 2 independent people mentioned that same thing. But I absolutely love this. It took me like 3 layers of blue in this background, and I still didn't get it like a complete solid color. It's crazy. It still looks very modeled, but I added stars to it, so it kind of looked like it's on purpose. But I do like how this came out. I really love using the colored pencils for subtle little details. And I fine lined certain areas to give it a little bit more pop. And this one was for the prompt leak. And again, it's like the prompts this year were really difficult for me because a lot of them were very unpleasant sounding prompts. And it's like, I want this to be kind of like bright and fun and happy and joyful. And so I thought, what about a leaky snow cone? And I didn't have a reference. So I did find a picture of a hand holding an ice cream cone. So I used that to help me draw the hand. And then, I know what snow cones look like. That's not that difficult. And then I just made my snow cone there. And I had fun doing the texture of this sweater as well. And I like how that came out. That was a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying using my imagination more on these prompts this year. And this one right here, and I can smell this paper because, and you can see how it's kind of curly. I had so much ink on this that like it was shiny in spots and it wasn't drying. And so I used that horrible hairspray, which I've already put away in the other room, that horrible dollar store hairspray that like glued my hair in place the other day. And I sprayed it with it because I'm like, I can't, like, it won't dry. The ink won't dry. It was horrible. I had so much on there. But this was for the prompt Spark. And I really wanted to have a dark background, and I wanted it to like glow from the center, which I feel like I achieved that. It's just super shiny and kind of hard. It was really difficult to photograph. Look how shiny that looks. And the hairspray helped it. But, and it still smells like that awful hairspray, but it worked well. And so I'm like, well, that's going to go with my varnish because I'm sure I will find a use for it in the craft room. And I certainly don't want to spray it on my hair anymore. So that's the last one in this book. And I have a couple others in my watercolor sketchbook, and I'm going to catch up on our questions. See if I think I saw one that I missed. Maybe I didn't, or maybe somebody removed it. And if there's not the word question in all caps, I may not catch it. So if I missed your question, just repost it if you don't mind. Let's see. I think I'm caught up. Yes, the $1 hairspray rears its ugly head again. Yes, Lisa, it did. So this sketchbook is actually from Rosie. My friend Rosie made me a sketchbook like about a year and a half ago, and I've been using it. I love it. And so many people ask me, where can I buy that sketchbook? I love that sketchbook. Where'd you get it? And Rosie was like, I'm not selling them, Lindsay. No, it's a gift. I'm not selling them. And like, I think you guys just badgered her enough that she finally decided to sell them. And so I did link to this in the video description. This is made with Arches watercolor paper. It is the finest sketchbook you will ever use. It lays nice and flat when you're working on it. And you can now buy them until she comes to her senses and realizes how many she has to sew now. But this is a wonderful sketchbook. And you saw my unboxing the other day. You'll see what a very kind person Rosie is. This is done with the the Derwent Graphitint paint pans. And actually, I think I sketched it out with a graphitint pencil, which is a water-soluble graphite that has some color to it. And then I just wet the background, and I just started putting in the graphitint paint pans. And the neat thing with the graphitint is that it's a water-soluble graphite, so it's a very granulating color, so it's got a beautiful texture to it. But since it's a heavy pigmented paint, it doesn't whoosh all over the place. So while the paper was wet, I painted the blades so they would look a little fuzzy, like they were going, but still retain most of their shape. And I was able to paint the stand and still get these beautiful patina colors mixing together. And I painted the cord, and then after it dried, I went over and did the cord again, and then I did the cage around the fin. More circles, man. What is it with me in circles? And then I used like a metallic marker. I think it was an Arteza metallic marker to do the little label in the center of the fan, and a white paint pen for highlights, and a black fine liner for the details. I will tell you though, if you like to use fine liner and you like to use watercolor paper, I find that a number 08 fine liner works the best on the watercolor paper, because if you go finer than that, you destroy the pen. And if you use an 08 if you use it at an angle, you can get a finer line. If you use it straight up and down, you can get a thicker line. So you do have quite a bit of variety there. I feel like anything smaller than an 08 is just like going to rip a Micron's nib to shreds, or whatever brand of fine liner you have. An 08 is really great for cold press watercolor paper. And then the next one, the reason I have this sleeve in here, this little tip in of tracing paper, or it's actually deli paper, is because the graphitint does rub off. It will rub onto your facing page if you don't have anything in there to protect it. So just FYI, in case you're using them in sketchbooks, they will rub, just kind of like if you did a drawing with graphite and you ran your fingers on it, it will rub off. And I just want to make sure you don't damage your facing page. You can erase it, but if you've got a page, your facing page is like colored pencil or pastel, you wouldn't want to try erasing over that. So just to keep things from transferring. And this was for the prompt extinct. And I did this fossil, and I had shared it on Instagram, and I said, I'm going to remember this next time I'm teaching a kids class, because I think this would be a fun project. And several people on Instagram said that, don't keep it for the kids only, we want to learn too. So I did a live stream of this technique, but these are the creatures that we did. And this is a paint with me. So, you grab your supplies, you sit down, you paint with me. It's all in real time on YouTube here. And this was fun. It was really fun to do. And I can see this as a great project for kids if you're a school teacher, or daycare, or just your own kids, and you want to do some art projects with them. It's really fun, and it shows you some different techniques. And even if you don't have the graphitint, if you have watercolors and watercolor pencils, you can do those techniques. You'll get a different look, but it's a new way to use those products, and it's a lot of fun. And then this is the last one, I believe. I think we've gone through all the other ones. This was from yesterday's prompt. It's upside down, actually. And the prompt was slither. And I didn't want to do a snake. I figured there'd be a lot of snakes. And I wanted to do something that was kind of slithery and slimy. And I just watched the movie The Meg, and there was a big squid in that movie. And I thought, oh, that would be fun. So I did a squid. And I used the Renaissance liquid charcoal. The neat thing about the liquid charcoal is that it doesn't rub off in your fingers, but it leaves behind a really great texture. And when you go over that with colored pencils, it is fantastic. It grabs that pencil, which is like you can see like on the tummy there. And the pencils I used on this were actually the really inexpensive Brute Fooners. Do you remember, you probably, if you watch my channel, they had a set of 520 colors, and they work really well on watercolor paper over a watercolor painting. And you can just touch up with just the color you need, because there's like 520. It's excessive. You probably don't need that many, but I do know a lot of people that bought them that kind of like didn't know what to do with them after they got them, but that's a great way to use them. And they're kind of like a novelty, like a collector's item, but they actually perform fairly well. I wasn't as, I guess, I don't know. I have to preface any recommendation of those just because it's so much. And if you're going to spend $100 on a big set of pencils like that, you could also instead spend $100 on like a set of Derwent or Prismacolor or something like that. It's a little bit more tried and true. But I just wanted to mention that because it was a lot of fun. And I used some white pen, and again, circles. I'm telling you, The tool in my craft room, my art studio that gets the most use are these little circle templates. I was doing bubbles everywhere. I don't know. I use this a lot. I got this at Staples like in the late 90s, and I'm telling you, that has definitely earned its keep. It has paid for itself time and time again. All right, I'm going to look at the questions in the chat and see. I should put something more interesting to look at. I'll put my favorite. I think this is my favorite one. I'm going to put my favorite one on the screen so you can look at that. While I'll put the peach in there too. That's kind of light. That might. I'm just trying to think what's going to make the what's going to make everything not kind of go bananas for the light. Put that one there. There we go. Okay. That works, I think. Okay, let's see. I'm going to be going back to front with the questions here, starting at the bottom and working my way back. Oh, Ian, thank you for linking that tutorial. Thank you, JD, for the kind words. Oh, hey, Jane. Jane Bush is in the house. She is also a super talented artist on YouTube. Check out her videos. She does a lot of reviews, and she does a lot of color pencil art, and she's a proper color pencil artist. So the person was asking about color pencil techniques. You probably should go check out her channel. Oh, Ian's asking if Rosie is here. I haven't seen her, but I haven't been watching the chat completely. She might pop it in the comments. I know she has been chatting in the comments of Sat Chat. If you can find her there if you want to chat with her. You also can contact her on Etsy. There's like a little place where you can message the seller. So if you have any questions, you can check that out. Via Vaughn says she ordered from Rosie yesterday. That's awesome. I'm so glad her shop is doing well and she's supplying you guys with the best sketchbooks ever. That's so nice. Oh, thank you for the nice words, Mickey. Someone says hairspray and lighters don't mix. Yeah, really. That was ironic. I had used the hairspray to seal the lighter picture. Oh, thank you for your kind words, Jane. So many wonderful, supportive comments. I appreciate it. Now, I think there was a couple questions that I missed. Oh, maybe not. Oh, I think someone might have retracted their question. All right, guys, if you have any last minute questions, pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off. I'm so glad the camera behaved for the last bit of this. How bizarre was that? Oh, that was so very strange. Carla says, what is the name and details for your friend with the art books? Carla, her name is Rosie Garbandia, and it is, she is her sketchbooks, her shop on Etsy is linked in the video description. I have a list of the sketchbooks first, and then I've got a list of the media that I used, and I know I have to add a few. Hopefully I can remember them when the stream is done. Somebody asked if I can, JD says, would you consider potentially streaming your art on Twitch? I don't have a Twitch account, and honestly, I don't think I have it in me to start another social media account. I'm kind of like, it's all I can do to keep these plates that I have in the air spinning right now between my blog, my YouTube, and my Instagram. That's about, and my Teachable School. That's about all I've got in me, I think. I don't know a thing about Twitch. I've never used it, so I don't know if my demographic is on Twitch. I always think of that more as like a gaming place. I don't game either. Oh, Pamela, she says she's watched me for years, and I think hopefully she's talking to me. I'm the one who inspired her to do watercolor. Oh, yay. Peggy asks, which one is my favorite? I think this one's my favorite. Honestly, I don't know. Let me look back in these. I do like the moon, the woman in the moon one. I like that one. I like the hands. I like that one too. I think, and I really like the deer, but I think I like the hands most. I like that combination of media as well. That just really jived. I really enjoyed that. Let's see. Naomi C said, I joined at the end. We'll have to watch the replay when it's done. I love the pieces I've seen so far. Oh, thank you, Naomi. Just a warning, in the middle, there's a little bit of a weird static on the bottom of the screen. I think it's poltergeist. I don't know. It's Halloween. Who can say? But then it does clear up. So if you're watching the replay, try not to be completely put off by that. Oh, someone says, oh, shoot. I started quoting you to my artist friends. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, Chicky D. That was fun. Oh, a lot of people catching the last few minutes. I know. I hope I'm not like what do you call it when you interrupt previous programming? I hope I'm not preempting all your football watching. I think there's a lot of football today. I don't know if my husband's watching it or not. Hopefully he's not putting off watching football because I'm streaming. He might be though. We have a pretty super duper internet connection now, so it should be okay. Oh, something else I wanted to mention. So like when I complete a month-long art challenge and I don't miss a day, I do treat myself to a new art supply. And 2 years ago, it was the brush and pencil blender and titanium white and fixatives and all of the products in the brush and pencil suite. And last year it was Derwent Lightfast. And this year I am treating myself to something I've wanted for a few months. And actually, I think I've wanted since I first saw them come out. And it is the 48 set of Gansai Tambi watercolors. So, and the 6 set of the Boku Undo watercolors. So you can look forward to seeing that on my channel. I just ordered it today as a treat after I finished my last Inktober. So I'm looking forward to those because I only have the 24 set of Gansai Tambi and it is running a little low. So I'm like, I'm going to treat myself to those. I've wanted those for a while. Jane Bush asks, what's a thing you've learned about yourself as an artist doing 30 days of drawings? Oh, let's see. I think that, what have I learned about myself? I don't know. I think that maybe that I can start off with something really crappy and pull it together just by sticking it through, because there's a lot of these pictures look like garbage, like halfway in, and that, you know, it just takes another layer or two to make it kind of get finished up. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've learned much, but I think I've become faster and maybe a little more confident in using markers and ink. Oh, thanks for stopping by, Jim. I love seeing the friendly faces, seeing the same names. I love it. I lost my place though. I'm sorry. Gina says, I had so much fun buying watercolors. Now I have so many. What a blessing to live in this day and age. We certainly are spoiled for choice, for sure. Oh, yes, please hit the like button before you go and leave a comment under the video. That would be great too, if you have a few minutes. Oh, Created to Bless says, thank you for all you do for the community. I appreciate that. Sue says the hands are her favorite. I love to draw hands. Let's see, Gina has 36 Gansai Tambis. I love those, and I love the pans they come in because they're so big, and I can reuse them for other things, which is nice because sometimes you want something that you can put a big brush into. Well, thank you, JD Trulio, for the $2 super chat. That's very kind of you. Your videos help me out all the time. Thank you. They say, I appreciate that. That's so nice. Hope you guys all have your candy ready for your trick-or-treaters tonight. If they trick-or-treat in your neighborhood, we don't get too many, so we'll probably have leftover candy, or we'll have some very happy teenagers that come by late or something, and they'll get the rest of the spoils. Oh, Mary says she signed up for my Michaels class in November and is looking forward to it. Yes, if you go to michaels.com/classes, or you look in the video description of SatChat, there's a link to a free class at Michaels. We'll be using Derwent Colorsoft. You can use whatever pencils you have, though, so come as you are. And we'll be painting, we'll be making ornaments or coasters from wood slices. So you could actually do this on any surface you want. There's a pattern available right there for free. You can print it out and transfer it on your Surface before class, and it will be a lot of fun. It's November 16th for anybody that wants to come to that. And thank you, Gina, for the $2 super chat. That's very kind of you. Sandra says she can't find the woman I spoke about on Etsy. Could you list her name again? Yes, I put a link right to her store, and it's right to her store in case she sells out of the sketchbook, so you can still, bookmark her store or whatever. But it's Rosie Garmendia. There's a link in the video description. Just I would just click that because I'll probably spell it wrong. Chicky D says all your hard work is definitely making you a very talented air quotes artist. 95% perspiration, 5% inspiration. Ain't that the truth? Yeah, anybody can get there. You just got to put the time in. Oh, Halloween's not a big thing in Oz, Australia. Oh, I'm so glad we're getting signups at the Michael's class. That's awesome. I really love doing those. And the more of you folks that sign up and come to class, just it encourages them to hire me back. So I really appreciate that. Okay, I think I'm caught up. Thank you guys all for signing up for the Michael's class. Thank you for hanging out with me live today on this end of Inktober, Halloween, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Yeah, I guess that's it. I have a card making video coming up tomorrow on my YouTube channel. If you're a card maker and you've missed those videos, we've got one coming up tomorrow. And I've got a review of the Phoenix color pencils coming up Tuesday. So yeah, and maybe a live stream on Wednesday. I think it would be fun to dig out all those new watercolor things that Rosie sent and have play with them on a live stream. So if you're interested in that, you can let me know in the comments after the video is done. Otherwise, I'll come up with a new idea, I guess, or something pre-recorded. I don't know. Playing it by ear. And I just want to say thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Like I mentioned before, all of the products I mentioned and I used in these sketches, I have linked in the video description. I will add the few that I forgot right after this broadcast. So I think I forgot to put the ChromaFlow pencils. I'm sure there were others. But if you heard me say something and I forgot to link it, you can leave me a comment and I'll add it, because I'm telling you, it's hard to remember things when you're running a live stream. Maybe nobody else has that problem, but I think I'm not as used to it. I'm rusty. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And until next time, happy crafting.